What is up, Ascenders? Welcome back to another episode of the Awaken podcast. After about a year of being away from doing the show, guidance has dropped back in once again to start back having and sharing these interviews with some of the most interesting teachers that I've come across on my path. The journey of doing so has greatly served me in the past, and by the sounds of some of the feedback I've received, some of you as well. I'm excited to be back. In this first episode back, I'm speaking to Davy, who's a bridge to higher consciousness, greater understanding, better health. He supports many on the path of self-mastery and is actively co-creating a new earth. Some of the ways that he's doing so is as an author, the creator of the 5D Breathwork Method, co-founder of Connected Community, co-steward of Unified Alliance, and the co-owner of Imiloa Institute. In this episode, Lee and I get into a conversation around what it means to be superhuman. Because as you're soon about to hear, Lee not only believes that we are infinite and capable of so much more than we've yet to discover, but he also draws from scientific evidence to back this up. You're about to hear about where science intersects with spirituality and how we can apply the growing scientific evidence of who we are and what we're capable of towards becoming superhuman. You'll also hear Lee share about what it takes to create true freedom, not just within ourselves, but in this world that we're living in, using what's referred to as the higher laws. So buckle up, Ascenders, because we're back with another episode of the Awaken podcast, and this one's with Davy. Davy is a bridge to greater health, expanded consciousness, and understanding. He's also a self-mastery guide, an author, a speaker, the creator of the 5D Breathwork Method, the most psychedelic breathwork on the market, and that he's training other teachers in now as well. And just all around superhuman. And I expect that after this conversation, more of us are going to be feeling inspired to be one as well. Brother, before we hear from you, I want to first thank you for being here, but to also acknowledge you for something. I want to acknowledge you for how you're embodying unity consciousness. We've been friends for a while now, and we've had more than a few conversations, and in those conversations I've just really felt this clear sense of you wanting the best for us. You're not thinking just about yourself. You're thinking about you're thinking about us. And I want to acknowledge you for that. And yeah, man, just thank you for serving oneness in the ways that you do.
Well, thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. It feels really honoring to be seen like that. And humbled as well. So thank you for seeing that and recognizing it. It is something that I really, I don't know, for I guess for as long as I can remember, just have aspired to do more for humanity, for us, and so it's good that that's coming through, I guess.
Yeah. You say as long as you can remember, but I'm willing to guess that there was some work involved to getting to that point of perceiving of and feeling in alignment with serving oneness. And I think that's probably the best place to start. If there was work involved with that, how were you able to bring yourself to be seeing the world from this lens of us?
There's definitely lots of work. It's interesting, as I've gone on my journey in this life and just think back, the first time I remember asking questions was like 13 years old, 13, 14, and played hockey. I think I was skating probably right around the same time that I was walking. I think around 3 years old, I was on skates. So played hockey and then got into the gym and all this stuff. And it's just like every little piece. I remember at 13 of writing. His name was Bill Phillips. He had a book called Body for Life, and it was a 12-week transformation, like training program. And like I love weights. I think my first book was the Bodybuilding Encyclopedia from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I had the little plastic weights with the cement inside them, and so besides hockey, resistance training was probably my first love. But I wrote this guy at that age, and was just like, your transformation challenge is cool and all that, but kind of seems like you've got it figured out. Like I've got this fire inside to do more, to be more, to help people. I have no idea what it is, but maybe you can mentor me, give me a job, take me under your wing. And of course he never responded. And ever since then, I've just kind of been falling forward and finding the pieces of the puzzle, the pieces of my puzzle, to clarify the picture of who I am and what I'm capable of. And along that journey, of course, when you look into things like the medicine world and the quantum world and even the quantum sciences now, and breathwork, like everything, all these tools are pointing to the fact that we are one. And so through that journey, it's like, okay, these pieces have helped me to feel more comfortable in this skin, in my own skin. And if they work for me, then, maybe they'll work for others. And so, when I talk about being a guide, I don't like the idea of a coach, or I feel like we're all coaches, we're all teachers, and we're all students. And so just to be able to say, hey, like, here's a potential framework, and a lot of these tools work for me, maybe they'll work for you. Maybe not in the same, like maybe you're look differently and you've got what I call the sacred self practice. You've got that set up differently for yourself, but if at a fundamental quantum level we are all one, we are all the same, then I offer these tools as a potential bridge for others to continue on their sacred self journey.
What sort of tools are we referring to here?
So, I love the intersection of science and spirituality. So actually understanding the science of the body, the neurophysiological aspects of kind of who we are, of how, we're programmed at a really young age, and I use program very literally because that's what happens before we have a conscious mind to discern and say, oh, I don't agree with that. The subconscious mind is wide open, and so other people's thoughts, feelings about each other, about wealth, about health, all of that ends up being our, becoming, for the most part, our operating system, right? And then that forms into a habitual way of being and patterning and all that stuff that ends up running the show. So having that understanding, utilizing the breath work if it's in front of you to do, utilizing medicines, I don't know how many, like I believe around 50 ayahuasca journeys I've done. Bufo is another amazing medicine, comes from the Sonoran desert toad. So like that just takes you to oneness. Mushrooms. And of course, all of these would be, intentional usage. Meditation, mantras, tonal activations. And, really, if I were to bring everything, like really kind of simplify, it would be creating or accessing the ability to come more into the present moment.
That's what they're all supporting us in, if you had to bring it down to one. Yeah, if I were to oversimplify it, so, and then, and I feel like there's the mind, body, and the spirit. Those are the facets of the self. Of course, our emotional body is I feel it's really intricately woven into
our spiritual body. But if again, just to oversimplify, if we were to say, there's the mind, body, spirit facets of who we are, then, there would have to be, tools and information and education under each of those facets of the self. And so, from the body perspective, it's like there's movement, there's breath work, there's detoxification, nutrition, supplementation, nootropics. From the spiritual aspect, it's like you could weave breath work into that, having that understanding of, the higher laws, the universal laws, how to actually, live from the higher laws. And then, the meditation is woven in. If we can just, kind of leverage the tools and the pieces of the puzzle, right, to get those aspects of the self into their alignment and all speaking the same language, then it's like we can come more into the present moment. And then, that's where the power is. That's where, all of the amazing things that are possible, can happen, can manifest from. If we're not present, then we can't recognize them, and we're fragmented, and our power is dispersed, and we're kind of living from that Newtonian model of reality where we're really relying on the senses, and we're perceiving the circumstances and people and situations, and so we give the power away. Whereas if we're able to shut all of that off and come into the present moment and go inside, then it's like we reclaim those fragments, that energy, and it's so vast, it's so infinite of who we truly are and what we're truly capable of.
As superhumans.
I
really enjoyed the simplification. I do actually, I agree that, bringing it all together as this being the various tools to support us into alignment with our power, but also just bringing it down to being present where our power is, I feel like is a really good way of tying it all together. I also like that you brought up the different dimensions of this, the body, the mind, the spirit, because one of the directions that I was actually feeling inspired to go, surprisingly, actually, when I was just kind of feeling into our conversation, is kind of starting with the body piece. I think we all kind of understand at this point, at least those that are tuning into this, type of content, this holistic nature of body, mind, spirit all being intertwined. But I'm really curious to hear from you this drawing this connection between the three. The way that the question's feeling inspired is, how does taking care of our physical bodies, our physical health, connect to something like ascension, spiritual growth?
Well, and again, this kind of goes back to my personal journey. Okay, what's the lowest hanging fruit, right? We live in a material world, and we think we're material based and all this stuff, and this really is the temple that houses our spirit. So if it's breaking down and I don't have any energy and I'm just trying to get through the day, and and I'm maybe stuck in a job that I'm not super happy with, then it's like it's draining the life force from us. And so we don't even have the energy to entertain the big questions about, well, who am I really? What is consciousness? What is oneness? What does the quantum world say about all that stuff? What is manifestation? Who am I really, and why am I truly here? So it's like if this is breaking down, and I mean, money is part of that physical equation too, right? If we're screwing around and we can't make ends meet, and we're trying to pay the bills, or we can't put food on the table, and typically, at least what I've seen, and I feel like this is an old paradigm that we're moving away from, is it's you've got health or you've got money, and typically it's one at the expense of the other. And I feel like, for us to really come into balance, again, I'll throw the mind and the spirit back into this, is, we've got to hone the physical, right? We've got to create a strong physical temple. And that's different types of movement training. That's what we're taking into our bodies, the nutrition aspect, using and doing regular detoxification and different type of therapies. If you're in the gym all the time, then, maybe you need some physiotherapy or athletic therapy or acupuncture or, Chinese medicine to again, bring balance to that. You want to be able to create money doing what you're passionate about, right? And that's going to give you the ability to actually stay in this form with a certain amount of longevity to do what you came here to do. But then if you're just focused on that, then I would argue there's not a whole lot of fulfillment. So that's where the spirit comes in, is like, okay, tuning into this energetic aspect of ourselves and saying, okay, like, who am I really? And it's so infinite, it's so vast, right? And why am I truly here? Like, what do I truly love to do? What am I super passionate about? And if you can really tap into that and bring that into the equation, then all of a sudden you're honoring your spirit and your spiritual journey. You're honing the physical, and to me, that's what brings us into a place of balance.
So it sounds like without this foundation of physical health, even addressing or having the consciousness to consider those questions and tap into the inspiration of spirit coming through, we kind of close ourselves off from that when the vessel isn't optimized or functioning in a effective performance. I again agree that this got to be a foundational piece. Now, I think another reason why this is coming up is because there's this, what I've seen, and you may have as well, this wanting to bypass that with ideas about spirituality and consciousness. And I think being too immersed in that can actually take us out of the body and caring for the physical vessel. So how do we bring these two things together? Being immersed or being connected to the physicality, and addressing these fundamental needs like health and money, but then still being in alignment with and in tune with what spirit is calling for us.
Yeah, I really feel like, there's so many guides, so many coaches, so many organizations, retreats, workshops that you can, that people can actually attend. And for me, it's I feel like start with the lowest hanging fruit. Right? Like, start with the area that you're maybe is the easiest for you or that you're most passionate about. And for many, that is the physical, right? Because to again, with no energy or dispersed energy and like giving that power away, or like trying to put money on the table, or food on the table, from a job maybe you don't like. It's like that is again, that's taking life force away. So find the things, remember the things that used to put a smile on your face, right? Get moving, get the blood flowing, right? If you do that, it's gonna start to change how you feel, right? And you can look at these as like small incremental steps until you're able to take a big leap. And that's part of what I offer. It's called 6 months to self-mastery, like becoming superhuman, is like, what are the tools that we can start to ingrain and start to make a habit that, before anything else happens, we're committing to ourselves first, right? And we're filling our cup. And if that means, you do have a job that currently you don't like and you have to get up at 4 a.m., getting up at 4 a.m. and spending 2 hours tending to the self, maybe doing some mindfulness stuff, getting your mind right, choosing what you're going to focus on, doing a journal, doing gratitude, writing out your perfect day. Like, these are all exercises that I'll use with people. if you spend that first 2 hours actually filling your cup, you're going to feel vastly different than if you got 2 hours of extra sleep and then you're shot out of a cannon and you're scurrying around getting your coffee and like doing your best to get to work on time. Right? So set that time aside to actually fill your cup, do the lowest hanging fruit thing first, right? And if that means you start with 10 minutes, like 2 minutes of jumping jacks, push-ups, sit-ups, that's your starting point, right? And then add an extra minute the next day, right? More isn't necessarily better. Better is better, and better leads to more.
More isn't necessarily better. Better is better.
Yeah, and better leads to more.
I like that.
Yeah.
The morning practice piece has been a game changer for me, man. I notice a vast difference in how I carry about myself, how I feel when I give myself that 2 hours actually, and sometimes it can be even more in the morning to prime the day. The interesting thing is, I think a lot of people's reasoning for not doing it is needing to get to other things, needing to do, and needing to start on that task list. But ironically, and I'm sure again you can probably relate, we tend to be more productive and efficient when we give ourselves that time to prime the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like related to coherence, because if you're always focused on the outside world and doing things and work and the kids and food, and then the mind becomes very incoherent, right? As soon as you shut that off a little bit and you actually start to attune to yourself through meditation, through breath work, it doesn't cost anything to breathe. Right? Take 10 to 15 minutes every day and do some breath work. You're actually going to shut the thinking mind off. You're going to bring more coherence to the brain. You're going to lower inflammation in the body. You're just going to feel better, right? And that coherence is going to, when you do have tasks or a list of things to get done, when you actually tend to those things with more coherence in the brain, it's not going to seem as confusing. It's not going to seem as difficult. It's going to be like, oh, like this is like, like boom, 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 boom. I'm done. Wow. And it didn't take me near as long as I thought it was going to. It's because there's more coherence. So there's more room in the brain to actually more efficiently tend to these things.
And it also, I think, goes back to what you were sharing earlier about reaccessing the present moment where your power really lies.
Absolutely. And you have more energy, like it kind of compounds on itself. And the last thing I'll say is that the brain is neuroplastic, which means it can change structurally and functionally, right? But if you're not doing anything to change it, then you're susceptible to the pre-programming that happened up until the age of 7 years old, before you developed the intellect or the conscious mind to say, wait a minute, I don't agree that all redheaded people have temper. I don't agree that money is the root of all evil, right? But these subconscious programs are playing in the background unless we choose to change them. And we change them by choosing to focus on and think about and feel about something differently. And then that literally rewires, it's called neuropruning, rewires the
neuropruning, you said?
Neuropruning. So every time we think a thought, we make a new neural connection, right? But if we don't return to that thought in hours or days, it prunes apart. Well, the same thing happens with all of those thoughts and feelings that we've wired and fired in the mind over and over again since a very young age. But this is like, there's like this little glue that is in between the neural synapses, and that glue gets very, very strong. Right? So that's why it's so habitual the way most people operate. But if you like choose to think about something else, right, and then return to that new thought over and over again, the neural networks of the old way of thinking start to lessen until they eventually prune apart, because there's only so much glue to go around. So when the glue is stolen from these neural synapses and used to strengthen these new ones, then all of a sudden you've got the old patterning that literally breaks apart and prunes apart, and then you've got the new patterning that actually begins to strengthen.
Okay, and just to be clear, that term neuropruning refers to the actual breaking apart of those glued neurons?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, this very much ties into the concept of neuroplasticity. This is how neuroplasticity is taking place, it sounds.
Yeah,
or one
absolutely.
of the mechanisms behind it. Because I also believe, is this the function or the process behind neurons that wire together?
I believe so, and you know, obviously there's the cells that are actually holding on to all the stuff, like the microtubules, these little hair-like fibers within the cells. That's actually holding on to the, you know, like the 95% of the subconscious mind, you know, and the subconscious programming. That's what's holding on to it, right? So, you know, it's like we think and then we feel, we think and then we feel, until the feeling ends up becoming the habitual way of being in the world. So then we search for the things that make us feel those feelings because it's super familiar, and then that makes us think the thoughts, right? So it's kind of this vicious cycle that begins to happen. Whereas if, you know, if we can take that time every day to tune into, you know, the world that we want, how we want to feel, what we want in our lives, right? Then we're actually starting to change that neurochemistry.
Yeah, I'm glad that you tied it together there. You know, how we can use the morning, that priming time as kind of practice training, and not just to actually invoke physiological changes in our body that leads us to reside in those states that we're practicing. It truly can have an effect. And I think another word that I feel is fitting here is rehearsing your day. Taking that time to rehearse how you want to be thinking, feeling, and experiencing your day. And the sort of effect that can have to kind of kick things off with. This is all happening in perfect time, by the way, because I just started diving back into Joe Dispenza's work. And of course, it's all very much in alignment with what we're sharing here. Didn't expect all of this to come up, but I think it's an important conversation to have in alignment with what I'm going to ask next. And it's, you know, the terms come up a few times now, superhuman. What does it mean to be superhuman?
I just, you know, for me, I feel like we've been so duped into this idea that we're just, you know, these little human things, and we don't really have any power, and you know, that other people are more capable than we are, and that there are certain people in the world that are like special, or, you know, can make lots of money, or, you know, can play sports at a really high level, but we can't. And I mean, again, at a fundamental level, it's like we're all the same, and it's just how are we applying ourselves, right? And I feel like we're at this period of truly unlocking our brilliance, truly unlocking who we truly are, and that is, you know, as mind, body, spirit beings. And you know, I've been in Tulum, Mexico, for the last couple of years, on and off, and there are so many wizards and energetic healers and just brilliant minds, you know, and I feel like we're at this kind of this precipice of truly unlocking that brilliance within and for each other. You know, and it's like, as one of my favorite poems by Marianne Williamson. She talks about how, as I let my light shine, you know, I consciously allow others to do the same. Right? And so I think, you know, we're really at this time of just remembering how amazing we truly are as energetic beings. And it's like, as we step more fully into that, you know, the brilliance and the light that we truly are, we provide examples, and you know, more and more people are like, wow, like, yeah, I am infinite. I am capable. I like, if we are each the universe, science, math, all proves it, that we are these infinite beings, then why does anybody struggle with energy issues? It's like, well, what are you focusing on? Are you tapping into every evening or every morning, and bringing light into your body like we did before this? Are you focusing on, really accessing that? Are you setting your intentions every day? Are you writing out gratitude and really focusing on what you have so that you can bring more of that into your life? And I think these are the small practices that, if people truly knew that they worked and how easy it was, there wouldn't be anybody that wouldn't do it. But again, there's an overriding of old programming that has to happen, and then kind of a belief that it's possible to open people up to it. And then once you believe that it's possible, you just have to do it. You have to commit to doing it, right? And with that commitment and that discipline to continue to train yourself, then it's like you unlock more quickly and things open up, and then all of a sudden you see results and you're like, oh wow, like maybe was that a coincidence, or does this actually work?
Yeah. So I'm gonna put this out there, and I think we're gonna come back to it. But there's the message there that if you knew what was possible, you would do the work. But I do think that there are people out there that know that they're capable of so much more, and for whatever reason, which is what I want to explore, what keeps them from actualizing that. But even before that, I kind of want to hear a little bit about this math and science that speaks to our infiniteness. You mentioned that there's evidence for this. Is there any there that you'd feel care to share with us?
Yeah, so Nassim Haramein is Haramein, is a unification physicist, and his organization, the Resonance Academy, years ago he wrote a paper called the Schwarzchild Proton. And basically it was, because like before that, the quantum physics and cosmology, like universal physics, basically agreed to disagree. They're like, oh, things are separate, and like the math, the numbers don't add up, and so we're living in this separate universe kind of thing. And what he discovered and what he brought to light was that that's not the case at all, that everything is connected from the infinitely small to the infinitely large. And there's kind of this straight line that goes through all of it, and we are humans, mankind, is at the center of it. And at the center of that is the atom. Right, and so basically he took a centimeter cubed square of space, right? So really, really tiny square cubed meter of space, and he filled it with what at the time was our smallest measurable unit that we could actually like measure and perceive, and it's called the Planck unit. And every Planck is billions of times smaller than an atom. But he filled this centimeter cube square of space with the Planck unit, and it came out to 10 to the 55 grams of energy density. Now,
what does that mean? 10 to the 55 grams of energy and density.
Like 10 with 55 zeros. So if you're actually able to measure the density of that centimeter cube square of space, then that's how much density would be in it with the Planck unit.
Okay.
Right. Then he took basically, 10 to the 99. Then he took all of the mass of our known universe at the time, like squashed it into the same centimeter cube square of space, and that was 10 to the 55 grams. So there are 10 to the 39 orders of magnitude greater energy density in every centimeter cubed square of space than all of the mass in the known universe. So people talk about the unified field or the quantum field, or that sea of energy that connects us all, that connects everything, right? Or at a microscopic level, you wouldn't see my finger, you wouldn't see this phone, you would actually see the space in between and the particles that are basically surrounded by empty space, right? But that's all energy, that's all density. Everything, like the air that we breathe and everything we perceive, even though it looks like it's empty space, is infinitely dense with energy. And each of those centimeter cubes square is 10 to the 39 orders of magnitude greater density than the mass of the universe. Otherwise, it's infinite. Like, it's just a way to quantify it, right? And within those spaces, within this, this field, this quantum field that we're literally swimming in, that energy is information. And so when we talk about like the breath work and really like quieting the mind and tuning in, we can access that infinite information. And whether it comes in as healing to the body, or as, genius and being able to download, and speak, brilliantly and very simply about the most grandiose things, or an idea for the next business, or whatever it is. It's like we've got that capacity to tune into that infinite energy around us and actually become a conduit, become a channel for it to flow through us. And then that's, in my humble opinion, that's what we're here to do. We're here to create. We're here to make.
You got cut off a quick second. We're here to
create. Like, we're creator beings. We're here to make manifest all that is in our hearts. But we can't do that if we're, worried about putting food on the table.
No. What's the evidence then that we're able to access this infinite intelligence that is seemingly outside of us?
I think, more and more, you mentioned Joe Dispenza earlier, right? Like his retreats and that sort of thing, people are healing from what was once thought to be chronic illness or disease. Everything from cancer to, paraplegia and quadriplegia. People are walking again and talking again and seeing again, and the new technologies that are coming online. The external technologies. There's quantum energy wellness beds that help people to essentially create the resources necessary to, again, fully heal. Those that weren't able to see are seeing again. And so there's all this stuff, and information and technology and that's coming out now that is reminding us just how powerful we are. And whether it's the creation of the technology itself, or the healing of the self, or the having brilliant ideas, or even I would say, there's people around the world that are having very similar visions, if you will, for example, buying land and building community. Like, I know of at least 20 land and community projects where it's like, if you talk, with all 20 of the project leaders, they've got basically the same vision, maybe from a different perspective, but it's the same vision. So how does that happen if there isn't a unified field that connects us all? And like a lot of them are starting to know of each other and connect and talk now. But I mean, before they did, it was just an idea. And I don't know how many people that I still talk to are like, yeah, you know what? I really want to buy land and build a community. It's like, welcome, because there's hundreds, probably thousands.
What do you think we are capable of in accessing this unified field?
Honestly, anything we want. I think we're slowly remembering how to do that. And it's interesting, like something like telepathy has been in my field over the last week. Like 3 or 4 different people have mentioned it, and they're like, yeah, like we should be able to communicate without these devices, without technology, because like we are the technology. Right. So I feel like we're at a time where, all of our gifts, if you will, to be able to channel, to be able to heal with touch and intention and energy, to be able to communicate without devices, all of this stuff is really coming back online. To be able to heal our physical forms. Like I feel like I talked about the blueprint for the kind of the land and the communities. I think we each have a divine blueprint, and we can access that, as the highest versions of our mind, body, spirit selves. I feel like, we're in this process of transitioning from carbon-based beings to crystalline-based beings. And so does that mean we're going to be able to close our eyes and eventually, like, end up in another place, like actually traveling? There's things like astral travel and different things like that, but are we actually going to be able to physically transport ourselves at some point? Probably not anytime soon, but I feel like our capabilities are just so vast, and we're really just at the like newborn baby steps of remembering what that actually is.
And then what are our newborn baby steps towards that power?
Towards what, sorry?
Towards accessing this sort of potential.
I feel like it's really everything we talked about. It's like, what are you doing first and foremost for yourself? Like what is your sacred self practice? How are you tending to the self? Setting loving boundaries and doing the things to really fill your cup, to remember. And before that, it's like, are you open to this? Are you open to the idea that something inside of you is greater than any circumstance, is greater than any thought that you've ever had or any perception of the self? And I always say, I wrote a book in 2014 called Conscious Endeavor, and at the beginning of the book I talk about like, what if what you think you know and who you think you are is just that, the thoughts? What if it's not truth? What if you're so much more than that? And so begin to question everything. Question who you think you are. Question what you think you know. And then start to do the research to see, like, are these traditions or holidays or, ways of being or, what I'm doing in my life, is that just habitual, or is that actually based on truth? And this kind of takes us into, like, universal law. And actually, one of my commitments this year is to do my best and set the intention to operate from the foundational law, which is the law of love and what is true. It's what every other law is based on and compelled to enforce. It includes doing no harm to another. It includes to always seek to discover what is true, to allow everything and to feel everything. So what would it be like if we all lived from the law of love and what is true? And it's a journey of discovery, because a lot of the things I thought were true are not. So what is the truth?
Mm-hmm. Where do these laws come from? These universal laws?
Yeah. So actually, the law of love and what is true. Then the universal laws, so things like cause and effect and polarity and vibration and all of these are kind of the universal laws, and they're the second step up, and they essentially provide all of creation with a mathematical and scientific framework from which everything kind of manifests or emanates from. Then we've got the laws of the soul. And then we've got our law come into I, and this is something I've been very passionate about, is, okay, like, especially with everything that's happened over the last couple of years, and I think kind of this goes back to the, like being spiritual. It's like, no, I'm free here and I'm free here. It's like, okay, but can you operate in the world freely without having to do anything that would be against your free will? And the conclusion I came to was no. So it's like, how can I actually be free? And if we learn to and remember to actually operate from the higher laws, then we get that kind of that energetics in order, right? And we really clean out the mind, body, spirit aspects of who we are. And again, that foundational law is the law of love and what is true. Then we can actually express our law, and we each have our own law. And to be able to express that law, to hold others of mankind accountable for their actions when at times they wrong, harm, and or trespass against me, it's this idea of radical self-responsibility and moving. And it's implied that we're all playing by this set of rules, and I got to call the cops, or I got to call a lawyer, and those are all fictitious titles. We can step out from behind those fictitious titles. Anything state-issued ID is a fictitious title, right? And this whole idea of commerce in the legal jurisdiction has been created to trap us and to engage us in commerce. That's all it really is. And we can step out from behind that when we operate from the higher laws to truly free ourselves and uphold all of our rights. And the highest right that we have as men and women is to that of our property, which includes our body, which includes the money that we make, which includes our land, our homes, our cars, all of that stuff. And so, for me, this was kind of the missing piece. And if people ask me what I do, it's like, yes, a guide, and it's all about freedom, like freeing the self on all aspects, and coming back to wholeness.
By the sounds of it, what you're sharing is that, well, my understanding, and let me know if I'm missing anything here, is there's this practice of freeing ourselves within ourselves, freeing ourselves from our limitations, from our self-imposed limiting beliefs and perspectives. But then there's also this more physical experience of a freedom that we haven't yet accessed and created for ourselves. And what you're describing here with regards to legal, and how I've heard you share kind of the shift from legal to these higher laws, is how you've put it. This is to neglect that or bypass that isn't to actualize full true freedom.
Yeah, 100%. And because it's said that essentially, as soon as we accept our birth certificate and the all capitalization of our names, the all capitalization in the Black Law Dictionary literally means the diminishment of status. And it's said that our souls are lost at sea. And we begin operating as this corporate pigeon, also known as a straw man or dead entity, right? That's our corporate identification number. And so, every time we use that, and the entity that creates the thing owns the thing. So because the state created our identification, they own that creation. So they literally own us, right? So that's not freedom. That's not the world that I came for. And I've been doing a little thing on social media where I'm talking about the higher laws and sharing these laws. And I'll plant the seed that if man's law were in harmony with the higher laws, then the amount of morality that is attached to that would be incredibly high. But because it's not in alignment, because man's law is not in alignment with the higher laws, the amount of morality that most of the world is dealing with is quite low. Mm-hmm. And if man's law were in harmony with higher law, we wouldn't need a lot of man's laws, because the only thing we need to do is live from the law of love and what is true. And if we're not doing harm unto another, then there's really no reason for any of the other laws.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want you to speak to someone like me, as well as I'm sure many others that probably can relate in this way. There's this process, this practice of self-mastery, this journey that I'm on, and I'm very focused on actualizing my own highest potential. But when it comes to something like what you're describing, our legal system and the state of it, and I can't say I've gotten to that point of really considering that, or really considering much about what I can do about that, or if I should do anything about that. It just hasn't been a focus of mine. So yeah, what sort of words do you have to someone that, like myself, is I'm self-mastery is definitely a primary intention, but kind of the stance I've been taking around that sort of thing is that's the world we're living in. I'm going to do my best to be my best within that world.
Well, again, using this idea of a bridge, it's like, yes, so this is the world that we're in, and we've been taught to live within this framework. But as an example, instead of creating a corporation or an LLC for our businesses, we can create a ministry, a faith-based ministry, a 508c1a, which is not taxable. Which basically the charters and bylaws within the ministries that we create becomes our governing body. We're not taught that, right? So what are
this is already in place? Like, this is something that we can already do. We can start a ministry, and the bylaws that. Could you just repeat that last sentence that you said for me? I think it was an important thing.
So the bylaws and the charter, like the founding documents for the ministry, becomes the law within which we operate.
And you're not subject to...
Taxation goes away, government interference goes away. I mean, you look at the church, right? The traditional church. So there's church you can create, then there's ministry, then there's private membership associations. And it creates a lawful jurisdiction from within which we can operate, versus the assumed legal jurisdiction that most people create for themselves by creating a corporation or an LLC or a sole proprietorship or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. So, to be able to have this understanding and then create these lawful protective mechanisms so that, we're actually stating, and it's said that law is expressed, legal is implied. So if we don't say anything, then it's implied that we're playing by this set of rules. But if we actually set up our no trespass signs, and that's basically what it is to that of our property, by creating ministries, by, learning the difference between languaging, like as an example, people, person, citizen are all legal definitions, and they don't mean what we think they mean. Only a man or woman can operate from law. And I can pull any other man or woman out from behind their title, their fictitious title, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a president, prime minister. They're all like donning these fictitious title in this legal, under the Bar Association, and we can pull them out from behind that to hold them directly liable through notice of liability. Cal Washington out of Vancouver.
Liable in what way? Like,
literally liable for their actions. So if somebody says
within the legal system, or this is...
It creates it's a separate jurisdiction.
Okay.
So
and what's that separate jurisdiction?
So we pull them out of the legal jurisdiction into one of law.
And so law is law beyond our concepts of society, and are you referring to something more expanded beyond that?
Yeah, because legal is not law. It's known as color of law. And so all the mandates, statutes, acts, codes, like a mandate is not a law. And I've got a definition for it that I can send, or I could try to find to read, but they're not laws. They're color of law. And so, like as an example, under law, it's not lawful for anyone to hold anyone at gunpoint, or for anyone to steal anything from anyone else, right? That would be a trespass. But it's legal for those with badges to steal plants from you, or mushrooms from you, or to hold you at gunpoint, right? But it's not lawful for anybody to do that. Mm-hmm. And so law trumps legal in terms of, so let's just say a police officer comes and they unlawfully detain me, and then they take possessions of mine for whatever reason, right? Under like the legal, and there's, maybe I can file a complaint, or I can do all the stuff and go through the legal process, and like it takes a long drawn out period of time. I can pull that man or woman out from behind their badge under law with a series of notices saying, you did this, you did this, you did this, I consider this a trespass. You send that series of notices, and if they haven't responded or haven't provided remedy to that trespass or that controversy, because again, the legal system thrives on controversy. So our intent is to bring remedy to any and all controversy. So if they haven't actually replied to that and made remedy, then I can invite them into a court of law, through which I actually return the judge into a magistrate with my rules of the court. And we each have the capacity to do that. So the highest court in the land is actually like Bryan's court, Lee's court. But we have to know how to do it. We have to know how to right size the ship and pull people out of the legal jurisdiction, and for us to actually remain in it, because the courts, they're going to try to pull us back into the legal where they have jurisdiction. So it comes down to our rights of property, the highest rights that we have, and jurisdiction.
What is law? Where does it come from, and who governs it?
Say that last part again.
What is law? Where does it come from, and who governs it?
We govern ourselves. We should be able to govern ourselves. And again, these laws, they're higher laws. They're foundational frameworks for the world within which we live. Some would call it common law, others would call it natural law, but it's law common to I.
These are all synonymous: natural law, common law.
Ish. I mean, if you're talking about it, they are, although I do believe that again, the legal jurisdiction keeps changing words to mean something else. So, like sovereign, I believe, or sovereign citizen. I believe now in the U.S. is actually like a terrorist name now, basically. So if you call yourself a sovereign citizen, then you can get yourself into trouble. Whereas if you're just the man or woman operating from just law, so like these other words tend to diminish the status.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone done this successfully?
Yeah, I'm hearing of more and more people. So I mentioned Cal Washington out of Vancouver. He's set himself free. His organization, In Power, which is set up under Revelation 18 Church. And again, these churches and ministries are not, they're not religious based. They're faith based in nature. Right, so my Ministry of Unified Alliances, is set up as a faith in nature, right, or natural law, or law. So Cal has removed himself completely from the legal jurisdiction. So he operates as a free man, like totally 100% in all aspects of his life. And was in and out of courts for a number of years, and to kind of figure all this stuff out. And so he's done it. The other group that I've been learning from, called the Sovereign's Way, and I can provide links and stuff like that if you want to share that, is Greg and John. So Greg's from the UK, John's from Canada. They've both been in and out of court, so they've literally freed themselves. And I'm hearing of more and more people that are either have done this or are in the process of doing it to free themselves. And that's the thing, right? Like that's in part what I'm in the process of doing, is creating the mechanisms and creating an example of, okay, like you want to do this part of it, this is what you do, this is who you go to actually create your ministry. You want to do this part of it, this is who you go to actually create your private trust web. You want to actually learn law common to I, you go to the Sovereign's Way and you do this. And once enough of us do this, I feel that's when things will change. Because right now, if I just do it, then I'm free, but that doesn't change anything. They're just like, this guy's too much trouble, like let's let him go. But if thousands of us do it, then it changes. Then we build the world and operate in the world the way that we were meant to, as free men and women.
I was going to ask you to sum it all up, but I think you might have just done so.
I feel like if we go back to the puzzle, this idea of a puzzle, and wherever you are with putting your puzzle together, putting the pieces of that together, start with the self. Take those little incremental steps, right? And maybe it's the physical self. Feel better. Think better. And Abraham Hicks talks about, just reach for better thinking thoughts and better feeling feelings. If you can do that, then you start to get into this stream, going down into ever expanding better thinking thoughts and better feeling feelings. Then you can really get the mind right. So you got to get the mind right, you got to get the body right, and maybe it's mind first, and then body. Maybe it's body first and then mind, right? But if you can do that, if you can feel better, if you can start to elevate your frequency, if you can start to change your focus, right? And I look at like all of these things as well as frequencies. If we're beginning to optimize our thoughts, our feelings, the words that we speak, the food that we eat, the water that we drink, through structuring it, our movement, then we're going to start to operate at a higher frequency. We're going to start to vibrate at a higher level, right? Then we start to entertain, the idea of consciousness and who am I really, and what am I truly capable of, and what would that feel like to really be in alignment and not only be an activated, embodied version of that, but a fully expressed version of that. And then it's like, okay, now how can I? So that feels better. I feel amazing. I'm starting to work passionately on what I love to do every single day, and I'm impacting others, and others are impacting me, and I just feel aligned and vibrant and excited about life, and the abundance is starting to roll in. Now, how can I truly free myself? Okay, let's start to look at the law piece, and maybe I should create a ministry for my organization because I hate taxes. Like, I don't even know what they do with them. Like, is that even lawful, or is it just a legal thing to steal my money for my hard, the hard work, the efforts that I put into my life? Do they even have any like why is that a thing? People say that, well, they build the roads and they do this and they do that. If you look into it, the amount of money that is put towards those things, like infrastructure, is very, very little. So just start to question those things and open yourself up to the idea and add the piece incrementally. The next piece, take the next step. And then when you do that, it's like all of a sudden you're going to be ready. Okay, yeah, let's create a ministry. Okay, yeah, this final piece, this bridge that we're walking across, is to walk as the fully activated, fully embodied, fully expressed versions of our highest self, and to do so in a world that is truly free. And we've truly taken radical self-responsibility for all of our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And when we get to that point, and when we each are able to do that, that's when the world that we came for, the new earth, the new world that so many of us see, and that blueprint and the visions that we're all holding will be here.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said start with the self, because I think without first building that foundation, everything that you're describing after, creating a world where we get to experience collective freedom, the inspiration for that, I don't think is something we can really truly connect with until we've first addressed the self and getting our energy right, getting our thoughts right, getting our bodies right. And then with that energy, the stuff that comes after becomes inspiring, more clear. So I feel like it's a great way to tie it all together under this scope of self-mastery and becoming superhuman and freedom. So thank you, brother, for sharing about all of it. I think, again, you did it for me, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, because it's the grand finale question. You ready for it?
Let's go.
You spoke about telepathy earlier. Well, guess what? You just actualized the power to telepathically communicate to all of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say?
If I'm just, okay, wow, okay. I would say that you are so much more than what you've ever been led to believe or perceive or think, and if you just open yourself just a little to that possibility, to the infiniteness that is you, and you take the first next step, whatever that is for you, right? And being open to that idea is that first step. And then the other steps will show up. You don't have to know the how. You just have to be open to the journey. And if you take that step, then that step, they say that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If you just take that first step and you keep doing the next step and the next step and engaging in the next thing that's in front of you, I promise you that the amount of love, healing, wholeness, abundance, connection, it just continues to increase with each of those steps, with the more that you open up to it. And if you do open yourself, your whole world can change in an instant. And when it does, you're going to realize the infiniteness that is you. When you do that, all the pain's going to go away, the healing is going to continue to deepen. You're going to feel more love than you've ever experienced and thought was even possible. And it is infinite. It does continue to expand. And you're going to make manifest all that is in your heart. When you're able to do that, and enough of us do it, that's when the new world will be born. And that to me that's true freedom. That is why we're here. We're here to create the new world. So take that first next step.
Thank you again, brother, for embodying unity in the ways that you do, and for continuing to take the next step forward in co-creating this new world.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for all that you're doing with Together We Ascend, and for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, and can't wait to see what else we co-create and manifest together.
Well, I'm glad you know that there's more to come. Actually, before you go, anything that you'd like to share or invite others into? We'll definitely include all your links in the show notes, but anything that you'd like to share or announce?
Yeah, I mean, I'm host the 5D teacher trainings. It's also a deep dive. So if you just want to do it for personal reasons, you can jump into that. It's a 6-week course. It's fully recorded, so it's remote, so anywhere in the world, or you can join for the teacher training aspect of it. Next one is coming up actually Saturday, so January 21st it begins. And we've got the Breathwork Academy that's launching, so we'll have a teacher kind of ownership stream and just like a regular membership stream. So if that's of interest, you can always connect with me about that. The 6 months to Superhuman and self-mastery, that is kind of an evergreen that continues on. So if that's of interest, and I've got a darkness retreat coming up February 22nd, and we're going to spend 4 days in total darkness. We're going to be just juicing, so it's a detoxification. We'll be meditating, doing breath work, tonal activations. It's really, really profound. It's the second one. I led one last year, and it was really, really powerful process to go in. So that is in person. It's in Tulum, Mexico. So if you feel called for that. Otherwise, just give me a follow on Instagram at 5D Breathwork and or Facebook. And I mean, if there's anything that you need support with on your journey, I'm always happy to have a conversation about that and be able to share any guidance or any bridges that I'm able to, if I'm able to.
Amazing. A lot there, family. And thank you again, Lee, for all those shares and invitations. Again, everything you've mentioned there will definitely be in the show notes. I'll say thank you again, my man, for this amazing conversation, and to all of the other amazing things that are to come.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Ascenders, I hope that you enjoyed this first episode back of the Awaken podcast with Lee Davy, and I trust that you're coming out of it feeling more inspired to discover what you are capable of becoming, because we are infinite and capable of so much more, and our science continues to grow in the amount of evidence we have to support this truth. And by applying this understanding to our sacred self practice and our process of subconscious reprogramming, you might just find yourself feeling and being superhuman, which is exactly what we've been working on together in the Ascend Academy, our community of awakened leaders who are coming together to ascend together. As a member of the Academy, you'll join us for 3 sessions a month where we come together to learn from each other, to grow with each other, as well as the many guest teachers that I bring in to help support us. And not only will you get access to these live sessions, but you'll also be able to look back at the growing library of Ascension-related masterclasses that we have, all created to support you in your process. And if there's one thing that I'm constantly seeing evidence as being one of the most influential factors in our process, it's who we are surrounding ourselves with. And so only really being in the experience of what's been taking place in the Academy can truly speak to how powerful it can be and beneficial it is. It has been for us. And if you're interested in discovering what it can mean for you to be surrounded by people who already strike me as being superhuman, I invite you to give this a shot by activating a free 30-day trial in the Ascend Academy. You can head on over to academy.togetherweascend.com to activate your free trial. Ascenders, that is going to be all for this first episode back of the Awaken podcast. I'm excited to be back and to have you here with us. This is going to be the first of many. So until then, keep ascending.